Hello, YouTube. This is Michael Denny, aka Mahadeva, the Thunder Wizard, and this is my spiritual name, Mahadeva. It's a name that coincidentally is very strongly connected with my Vedic astrological ascendant, which happens to be in the nakshatra of Magha. Magha is the resting place of the ancestors. And I'm in the fourth pada of Magha, which means that my essence, when you have the fourth section of a pada of any nakshatra, it means that you live there. So each of the sections has a different vibration. It means that my ascendant, that which has come into physical manifestation in this life, means my essence is actually in the presence of the ancestors. So this is, everybody has their own ascendant. You can talk to your own Vedic astrologer to find out where your ascendant actually is. So this is mine. And so the name Mahadeva aligns with my ascendant, but it is also a name that was given to me when I had somebody I knew who was at least claimed to be psychic, and she came up to me one day and she said, "You're going to have a communication from your guides tonight." And I went, "Okay, whatever." And sure enough, that night, I was visited by a very beautiful female, blonde-haired woman who said, "Hello, Mahadeva." And I was like, wow, I guess that's my name. So decades later, I finally decided to adopt that, which I have. I've come to believe, after meditating on this and thinking about it, that Mahadeva is my future self in what I would consider to be a perfect timeline. He is a master meditator, and he lives in a continual state of channeling the force of the universe. So he's in a continual state of right now. He does not see himself as having a past or a future. He lives in the present moment. So whenever he answers any questions I have, he does not always answer the way that I want. And he oftentimes answers in ways where he seems flippant, and he answers from his perspective of the eternal right now. So sometimes his answers don't make sense, and sometimes he doesn't answer, like I said, in the ways that I want. So I've decided I'm going to start once again experimenting with answering other people's questions. And I'm going to be honest with you, me personally, I am not fully comfortable with the idea, but I really feel like that he has invited the possibility of, having a more direct experience with my students. He says they're my students. They're not my students, they're his students. And so, like I said, I'm not comfortable with a lot of the things that he says, and some of the questions people ask, I get really uncomfortable because I don't want to be responsible for, the weight of some of these questions, and I don't even know if I would, all that. But I'm just going to go ahead and continue to do it. So I've already done this before starting this video, but I'm going to do it for you in case you want to do it yourself and see what happens. So we are going to chant the 12-syllable mantra of Mahadeva. There's numerous ones. We'll talk about that. But the 12-syllable mantra for Mahadeva is Om Namo Bhagavate Mahadevaya. And this is 12 syllables, which means that it vibrates with all 12 syllables of your astrological chart. It has 4 words in it. Om Namo Bhagavate. It has 4 words, so it means it takes the energy of the 4th house to the 12th house. The 12th house is liberation, but it's also out of the physical realm. So we are catapulting ourselves into the infinite. So I'm going to chant that 4 times, and then he and I together are going to look at some comments and questions that you have left. So by the way, if you have questions for him, you can leave them. I can't guarantee what or how or if they will be answered. I take no responsibility for the answers that come. So there you go. So here we go. Let's take a deep breath in. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahadevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahadevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahadevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahadevaya. You're all very silly. All right. So, I'm going to get rid of that because, you know what? I'm going to leave that alone. Vincent.thunderwizard.com says, I would love for Mahadeva to answer the question, why was I born with a rare, undiagnosed medical condition that has affected every area of my life and caused extreme pain and suffering? And in general, why do bad things happen to innocent people? My inner child feels that it's not fair that I was born with these problems. I feel like God has abandoned, punished, and cursed me. I know I'm not a victim, but this is an honest question that has been bugging me for most of my life. Feelings are feelings. Feelings are not facts. Feelings are feelings. As Michael says, you have to feel all of your feelings. But that's all. You're not supposed to do anything else with them except feel them and act on them as they drive you towards your higher true self. So the answer to your question, why were you born with this rare undiagnosed medical condition that has affected every area of my life and caused extreme pain and suffering? My answer to you is, what are you asking me for? Seriously, why am I supposed to answer that for you? You want me to give you some intellectual event or reason that caused this? I didn't live that past life that motivated you to choose this life. Whatever that was happened in the past. I don't live in the past. I have no past. I'm in the continuous present. The problem with your question and the pain associated with your question has to do with you are trying to manipulate the universe with your question. You're trying to create a false universe where certain things cause certain things and you are stuck with something that happened in some time you can't even remember, some lifetime you can't even remember. So your question is wrong. The question you should be asking is, how is my current experience, which, as you know, is an illusion, how is my current experience giving me gifts of power? This is how you should look at everything in life. I give you power in any current experience you have, which is an illusion, which is very real for you. They are gifts that you give yourself. So stop asking the wrong questions. It's an illusion that you have been victimized by anything. It is an illusion. It is a choice that you have made to find power. I don't know why you want me to tell you how to find your own power. You created it. You ask, why do bad things happen to innocent people? Bad things don't happen to innocent people. What's the next question? What is the next question here? Zeralath. Question. Will the internet and or telecommunications be shut down or just social media? I started my change process in October, and I am imagining we lose over 100 years of energy technology. This is in response to Mahadeva's video, Massive Ascension starts in 2022, end of the internet age. So the internet stops being the God that we worship. So your assumption is when he writes the end of the internet age, you've assumed that the internet is going to come to an end. What happens is that the internet stops being the God that you worship. Imagine accomplishing all of the goals of the internet without the internet. You haven't got there yet. In your timeline, you're asking me about a future that hasn't happened yet for you. Bear in mind, none of those futures happened for me because I don't live in that timeline. I live in a timeline where I am in all timelines and no timelines. You are in a specific timeline. And so you're asking me what is going to come in the timeline that you're in that hasn't happened yet for you. And you are actually standing in front of infinite numbers of alternate timelines branching out from every single moment. So if I were to tell you what would happen to the internet for you, I would be helping you to consign yourself to one timeline. So that's why instead of telling you what's going to happen with the internet, the one thing that this says, and this is according to him, my previous self who calls himself Mahadeva. I am Mahadeva. He calls himself by that, but I am that. He is talking about, I'll tell you what he's doing. What he's doing is that he is seeking to create for himself a perfect timeline. For him, his perfect timeline is the end of what he calls the corporatocracy. This is, he is in a state of neutrality about it, but it still bothers him. And so he is telling you what he is seeing and what he is feeling about his timeline. And he's in the process of creating a good timeline for himself. But he, like you, is working on it, has challenges, issues, fears, desires, which is perfectly normal for all of us in our timeline. I'm living in my perfect timeline, which is there is no past, there is no future. And so because of that, I can come and interface with you and yours. But my job, it's really my desire. My desire is to help you to create whatever timeline you want and to help you learn how to be a timeline creator. So he is stating that according to his timeline that he wants to create, he is about to enter into a time which he hopes is the end of the internet age, which means that we no longer worship that. The internet is the tool through which, in his reality, the corporatocracy is using that to control, manipulate, and hypnotize the world. And what Mahadeva needs to understand is that everybody's chosen this. They're not victims of it. He's aware of it, but he hasn't fully comprehended that. That everybody in the world is actually wanting to be controlled. So it really means the end of the desire to be controlled through the internet age, which is why I say, if he is able to manifest that timeline for himself, it will mean that people will stop worshiping the internet as their god. So for you, Zeralath, you have a strong, I can tell by your question, you have a strong attachment to things associated with the internet. So my question to you is, as you create your timeline, imagine accomplishing the goals of the internet without the internet. All right, what else? Atham, let's see. So this is from Atham Animist. He says this question can go to you or Mahadeva. Laugh out loud. So, in the past few years, I have had at least 2 dreams where I met certain individuals who I had yet to meet in real life. I later met them in waking reality, and we have had very powerful and synchronistic moments. In your experience, is that really the truth? The dream events tended to play out archetypally and symbolically when we actually met in waking reality. The dreams were not, quote, shared dreams. We didn't have the same dreams, but one of the people I met had visions that connected to our meeting up. In both cases, we both felt a very strong connection to each other. Michael would postulate that this could be projection. What do you think? He goes on to say, I know that I cannot exactly prove this to you, which makes me wonder, why do you need to prove it to me? Or prove it to anybody? Experience is just that. Experience is a choice that you make. Do you remember, maybe some of you don't remember. Michael remembers. Do you remember when televisions you only got your signal through the air and you had these rabbit ears, or you would connect to an antenna on your roof, and your antenna got literally pulled the signal out of the air and pulled it into your television. It was an amazing thing. I mean, now we don't do that. In fact, it's less amazing now the way people get their television. It comes through the internet. through cables and internet, where it used to come straight out of the air. And so if the television station wasn't broadcasting live, then when you turned on, you would get snow. It would just be static, and it would just be, and it would look like a snowstorm. And in fact, you couldn't have experienced this unless you lived in that time. But many times, Mike would, when he was a younger person, even into his early 20s, be watching television, and you'd fall asleep, and then you'd wake up to this, it would just be this white noise. And they would have a picture on the screen that said, "This is the end of the broadcasting day." And then it would go into snow. So that is your reality. Every single experience that you have, and this is important, this is why I live where I live. I live in eternal now, the eternal bliss of now. I live in all times and in no times. And this is Michael's perfect alignment. This is what he has been working towards for many lifetimes, and he still has some way to go to get there. But this is where he's going to end up. Where you, like the television, you take stuff, so things that are flying around, and you pull it in, and then you create this reality on this box. So you're telling me a bunch of things that you experienced, and you're not taking responsibility for the fact that there were infinite numbers of other experiences floating around in your interactions with those people. You channeled and pulled in the ones that you wanted to create. And even of that, that picture, if you will. That picture has many details on it, and you've chosen to focus on certain things and turn them into something that are meaningful to you. But you're trying to tell me these are objective truths that happened to you, and that is true also. But it's because you chose to channel them in and crystallize them in that form. Even the experience that those other people, because again, what you're saying is this whole question has very little to do with the specific manifested events you're talking about. It has a lot more to do with you wanting me, which is you experience as your father figure. You're wanting me to reflect back to you and to give you validation. In your experience, the picture that you created is a little bit shaky because you don't feel you have the right to validate it. So you need me to look at it and to validate it, which will then crystallize it into something real for you. And then you as a person will feel validated. All of this has to do with being validated. Michael right now really wants to go in there and analyze every single thing. I'm not going to do that. I don't need to do that. You hear what I'm saying. So when you say, I know that I cannot exactly prove this to you, I don't need you to prove anything to me. Why does proving it to me make it any more or less real for you? Because you're all humans working towards your highest expression, you're all not owning your ability to choose to crystallize anything. I know it seems difficult and impossible, perhaps, for you, but you really could change everything. You can heal yourself of any disease. create, dropping all of your history. These are choices. Michael right now is in a very exciting and interesting, and he doesn't share it a lot, but it's a potentially frightening experience for him, because he has given himself permission to disconnect from his history, because all of his family now have passed away. All of his relationships, he has not committed. He has chosen not to commit to any personal relationship. The only real relationship he has is with you guys. And that's because he believes he needs that in order to physically survive, and because it's important for him. But he now is in a position where he is consciously rewriting his programming, because he no longer has people that he feels, he never did, but he feels like he had a karmic responsibility to these people. And so he allowed them to write his history, his narrative. And he's now systematically getting rid of all of those narratives, which is incredibly powerful for him, because now he's in a position to walk into something he's never seen or experienced before. And because I am his future self, I'm doing what he does, which is I'm showing you his human experience and his vulnerabilities so that you can relate, because you're the same. The difference between some of you and Michael is that Michael has the experience that he has this positive scenario going on where he doesn't have a mother and a father, a sister and a brother, a wife, kids, a job, friendships. He doesn't have any of those karmic responsibilities. Truth is, he never did. But he chose to take them on under his experience is that he did it in order to please other people. But the truth is that he did it for his own reasons, as you are. Some of you believe that your life is limited because of what your parents did. And you manifested your parents. You manifested your life. You manifested the narrative of who you are and who did this, so that you could continue the drama of the story that you wanted to play out. When you're done with that, and if you're not done with it, you're not done with it. But when you're done with that play, when the curtain comes down and the audience claps and you take off your costume, say, okay, what play am I going to do next? You can do that whenever you want. You can do that when you're 5 years old. You can do it when you're 90 years old. You can do it whenever you want. If you don't feel like that's an easy thing to do, stop struggling. It's because you've chosen. You've said, I'm not done with this play yet. And in this play, I am a miserable victim. You obviously, there's something about you that, forgive me for saying so, you enjoy it, meaning that there's something you want to experience, you want to learn. And as I said to Vincent, you've given yourself a gift of power that you have to look for. And it's just as simple as deciding. And it's easy for me to say because I live there. But it doesn't make it any less true. Everything you experience is your choice. It's your choice to pull, like those televisions, pull it out of the air and manifest I Love Lucy, as opposed to I Dream of Jeannie. It's completely up to you. And it's okay that you don't see that yet. When you're ready, meaning like not ready because you're ready, but because, yeah, I think I'm ready for that. When you're ready, you'll see it. So really, there's really nothing to be bent out of shape about. There's nothing. There's nothing going on that isn't what you've planned for, what you've chosen, and what you have crafted and created. And that's why oftentimes I look at you and I have a mischievous grin on my face, because I know what you're doing. I know exactly what you're doing. I know because I was like you. I like Michael a lot. Of all of my timelines, I like him a lot because he's on that path. He's beginning to understand that. He's a little afraid to fully manifest it and put it out there, but he's on that path. So he's a good teacher for those who want to learn what he's doing, because he is doing, and he's just a few steps ahead of you, but he's doing what you want to do. He's a good person to follow, because if you watch what he does, and he's pretty good at showing you what he does, and you can look at his previous videos, and you'll see he tells you when he's going to do something, what he's going to do, how he's going to change things. And he doesn't know if he's going to succeed or not. But it's not really that whether he succeeds. It's that he's showing you what to do. And this is, as he says, this is a universe of actions. My state of bliss that I live in continuously is a continuous choice. It's not something that happens to me. I could decide to go back into physical manifestation. I choose to continuously create and expand my experience of empty fullness, where I live in nothingness, but I live in everything. And it's exciting, and it's powerful, and it's orgasmic. And it's where all of you will end up. In your experience, you're already there, but your experience is that you will end up there. So you don't have to prove anything to me. You say, assuming that all of this has actually happened, it has actually happened, and it didn't happen. You manufactured it, and it actually happened. Both true at the same time. You say, could this linking of our subconscious and unconscious minds, could this be a linking of your subconscious and unconscious minds? Yeah. It could be that, and it could also be people who are not connected at all, who are seeking to validate the experience of being connected, and therefore you are. What is it that connects you? Is it that you had these shared dreams? Or is it that you share a desire to have shared dreams? They both connect you. Does it matter which one? Connection is connection. And you have connection because you desire it. And as Mike says, fulfill all of your desires. When you stop wanting connection, you won't have connection in that way anymore. You say, or soul bond, or could it be something else altogether? So is there a difference between a soul bond and a mental bond and a physical bond? Everything is soul. So everything is a soul bond. Okay, what else? This wasn't a direct, well, you know what? It is a question. I think it's a question for Michael Mahadeva, but I'm going to answer this question. Michael, I'm sitting here interacting with you through Michael, and Michael has deep emotional response to this question because, as you know, he experienced what he believes was the separation of his soulmate a few years ago when she left her physical body behind. So he has a lot of compassion for this person. This person says, and this is in response to how to astral travel. I think it's a she, I don't know, it could be a he, says, I want to connect with a past loved one. He died on 2/22/22. So in your experience, that's very recent. And this must be very painful. And I remember Michael's pain, the pain that he went through when he lost his perceived soulmate. And it's quite an unpleasant feeling, and you feel like the universe has a hole ripped in it. The universe doesn't make sense. Your human brain can't comprehend the universe existing without that person. And so you desperately want to connect. So just realize that in your experience, this is a very recent occurrence. And things will begin to change for you. But for right now, you're hemorrhaging. You were super glued to that person, and now they've been torn away from you, and you're hemorrhaging. And it's quite painful. And so there's really nothing you can do about that pain. You say, I recognize him as my twin flame. Is this a good way to contact him, meaning astral travel? At this period of time right now, what is most important is that you need to allow that soul to make a transition, because they just recently separated from their body. So they are going in and out. The soul is going into completely other areas where they're disconnecting from their physical karma, and they're experiencing bliss, and then they get pulled back because they're back and forth. They get pulled back, and they'll, for them it'll be, they might have an experience of a few seconds, but, days might have gone by or weeks, and they'll be pulled back because you may be sobbing and in pain, crying out to them. And they will have a strong desire to talk to you. So the feeling that you have right now of, I can't see him, I can't feel him, I can't touch him. Where is he? How? And you desperately want to connect with him in a human way. And he is going back and forth. And he's having to go through his transition. So in many cultures, the best way to handle this is to take 40 days and mourn. Like mourn, don't hold back. Mourn the loss of this person. Do rituals for them. Light a candle. You want to know what is the best way to contact him. You can try astral travel if you like. Certainly nothing wrong with that. But for your human mind, it's very important that your human mind, because your soul is fine. You're not completely conscious of it, but your soul is still connected to him. It never disconnects. See, the thing that Michael is learning is that I am his true self. I'm in bliss, and I'm in everything, and I'm with everyone. And so is he. But his human experience doesn't comprehend that, because if it did, you wouldn't be able to fulfill the desires that you have. You wouldn't be able to keep the illusion that you're in three-dimensional. So your pain is very real, and it's also manufactured. And what you need to do as a human is to love them enough to aid them on their journey. This person has decided to leave. I'll tell you something else that you don't know. Many people don't know. Is that when we as souls, when we leave this world, there's many reasons, because we live in a hologram. It's not one reason or another. We can pick one reason. For example, I will say to you in human terms by choosing one of the infinite numbers of reasons and truths for this person's passing. And it will be 100% true, even though it will be limited and directed to your personal experience of creating your timeline. And that is that he chose to exit the body so that he could more powerfully surround, protect, and guide you, so that he could be your own personal genie. To, as in the Star Wars, I will be stronger than you can possibly imagine if you strike me down. He chose to leave so that he could be there with you in your journey as a human and give you power and strength in ways he couldn't do before. The end result of that is, if you allow it, because it's a two-way street, if you every day connect with him and say, guide me, empower me, and entrust, like a god, you entrust the course of your life to this, your best friend, then they have your permission to do all kinds of things to help you align your timeline. That will include you fulfilling challenges and difficulties that you experience, which you've designed in order to be more powerful. So you can do astral travel if you want, and you'll see how successful that will or won't be. But the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is every day light a candle and think about that person and think about them as an eternal soul. You can also talk to them, get all of your feelings off your chest, talk about all of the beautiful experiences that you remember. Because what will happen is you will, depending on your experience, you will focus on those memories that were really beautiful. If you have challenges, if there were things that you needed to work through, you can talk them through as though they're there in the physical. Tell them, things that they did that might have hurt you, angered you, saddened you. Things that you wish you could have experienced that you weren't able to. And then remember the times that gave you an experience of happiness and joy. And so you have to be willing to have a different kind of contact. You're not going to be able to have the same kind of contact where they're going to be sitting next to you with their human head and their human body, and they're going to speak in human words, and you're going to have a human experience. Michael wanted it. I got to tell you that if you go back 7 years, was it that long ago? 7 years in your time, Michael was really kind of on the edge. And he was a little delusional right after the passing of his partner. And he honestly believed that she was going to manifest in front of him, and be there, and he would be able to see her, and talk with her. And he would, she'd be like a imaginary friend kind of thing. And he was surprised that that didn't happen. And he would have done anything. If he could have found a magic phone that would have been able to hear her voice and talk to her, he would have never left his apartment. He would have stayed in his apartment and talked on that phone. It would have completely debilitated him. And so that didn't happen. And so he had to, like everybody, there's nothing, what he went through is what pretty much everybody goes through. And he learned how to slowly disengage from connecting with her in that limited form. And he doesn't see it all the time, but she's all around him. And she's working with him on levels. Again, it's like what you want is you want to connect to somebody that's now left the three-dimensional realm who's in multi-dimensions. You can't see and interact from your human self in the same way that somebody in 2 dimensions cannot interact with somebody in 3 dimensions. But the three-dimensional person can see them, can interact with them, can even put things into their reality that they can either choose to see or not see. So first and foremost, you need to let this person go and spend 40 days mourning, doing rituals, lighting candles, talking to them, crying for your own. You're the one that's in pain. Your loved one is not in pain. They feel connected to you. You don't feel connected to them. But that's because you're in 3 dimensions and they're in multiple dimensions. You're in a timeline and they're right now in between timelines. They don't have a timeline. But they're with you. They're with you in the past, they're with you in the future, they're with you in the present, just not in ways that you understand. And that's just the way, that's just one of the things that is necessary about being a human. But in ways you can't comprehend, your relationship will grow deeper. But you have to stop trying to get human satisfaction out of it, because you won't. Your human, 3-dimensional human, unfortunately, won't be able to get that satisfaction the way you want. So you're going to have to learn to get that satisfaction in other ways, which helps you to grow beyond the 3 dimensions. Thundra Staves Rangel asks, I would like to ask Mahadeva if he can help me discover my own higher self and how I can know my deity. Why are you pretending that you don't know? Do you realize that that is a script? You can drop that script whenever you want. The script that you don't know, that you're not connected. You can drop that whenever you want. You say, how I can know my deity? I've tried asking. If the answers are coming, I'm not able to see them yet. The answers are not coming the way you want. You're just not seeing the answers that are coming to you. And I can imagine that's infuriating you right now. It's time to learn how to drop the narrative you have about yourself and about reality. So when you drop that, it means you don't know. So it's good that you don't know. Start from that. I don't know. But not knowing doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I mean, do you know how electricity works? It works. But do you know how? Electricians don't know how. They just know it works. So drop the narrative that you don't know, and then listen to the part of you that does know. When you're ready to let go of the narrative that you don't know, that you are abandoned, that you are alone, that you have no help. When you're willing to drop that narrative, bear in mind, dropping the narrative doesn't mean dropping the feelings. The feelings are not the narrative. So you can have the feelings and drop the narrative. You say, sometimes I feel Mahadeva might be my higher self. Well, I am in everything. I am everything, I am everyone. So I am everything you just mentioned. So if you want to make me your higher self, go ahead. Mostly I feel he is my father, and sometimes he is my lover. Those are all different channels on the television. So, the thing about you, Thundra, is that you want me to help you realize what you already know. This is a role you're playing. You've convinced yourself that you are a victim of this role, but this is a role that you are playing, and you're a very dramatic person, and that's because you are playing this role so that other people will see themselves in you. And as you drop the narrative, and as you expand into what I see you as you are. You don't see yourself as you are. And that's because you can't see yourself as you are and play your role. And your role is to help others. You've chosen this extreme dramatic life with these intense feelings so that you can throw off the shackles, you can overcome, and you do it so that other people can see, because you're a teacher. So the best way to teach, when your students, you're far more advanced than you realize. You're an incredibly advanced soul. You're much closer to being where I am than many other people. And so, until somebody knows, we can, tell them all day, just drop the narrative, be your true self, etc., etc. But until they're able to do that, it doesn't mean anything. So out of frustration, your soul said, I'm going to have to show these people once again how this is done. So you've chosen to clothe yourself in this life, which, as you know, has a lot of experience of pain and challenges. But you did that so that you could throw the cloak off and have your lightning explode through the universe, and everybody would see it and their jaws would drop, so that then you could go, see, that's how it's done. Now you guys do it. And that is your preferred timeline. I've seen you do it. And if you choose to, you will do it again. Okay? So stop pretending. But keep pretending if you understand that you are playing this role out to benefit others. But in terms of this experience that you are choosing to have, that you haven't discovered your higher self and that you don't know your deity, I know different. And it is that simple. You just drop the narrative. Just put the cloak off. And you'll see. It'll happen. You'll see. You've chosen Michael, Mahadeva, because you've taught him before. And he's taught you before. So you already know what he teaches. And so this is why you've linked up, because he is somebody that helps pull you into, what is that? Is that, I think they do that in, what is that? Roller skate, skating, roller derby. Remember those where one roller skater will grab another one and throw them forward? And then later on, the other one will grab that person and throw them forward. That's what you guys do. So right now, he's ahead of you, and he's grabbing you, and he's going to throw you forward. And, if you guys decide to continue to create different, timelines, then you'll do that for him. It's all an illusion, all of it. All of it. Okay, what else? I think those were all of the questions directed to me. And Michael, I'm choosing not to do a lot of things that Michael wants. So here's a question. I think this is a question for Michael Mahadeva, but let's see. Did he answer this one? Question. As a kid, did you have to face people saying negative words to you or giving a negative emotion or negative response to you constantly when you tried to present them something that you were excited about? Okay, I do remember he read this. Oh, yeah, he wrote it. This isn't so much a question as it is you're sharing your experience and thoughts. Okay. I don't feel the need to respond to that, so I won't. Okay, that's it. So I will continue to be here, and now I will let Michael come back, and you can do whatever you want. Okay, so I have to tell you, for me personally, this is just me, Michael Mahadeva. For me personally, this is uncomfortable. And I don't know why I need to say that, but I'm happy to keep doing this if it's helpful for you guys. He's a lot kinder. He's a kinder version of myself. So it might be good for me to, let that aspect of me come forward. And I've made that decision. That's really what I want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sharing with you guys mantras for this Mahadeva energy. We might do a live ritual where we chant to that. So I'll do that later on. Anyway, that'll be it. That's my channeled answers to your questions today. If you want to ask Mahadeva any question, go ahead. If it were me, I got to be honest, if it were me, I would want to limit what kind of questions and how, but I'm not going to do that. He'll respond however he wants to respond. And I'm not going to be attached to anything that is said or any of the outcome. You are fully responsible for how you choose to respond to whatever he tells you. All right. Take it easy, guys. And again, if you have a question, feel free to write it out. And we're coming up to the end of February. So I recommend that you subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge, thunderwizard.com, Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. And I'm going to start putting more energy into that practice. And it is my hope to continue to keep bringing more of that energy and more of those practices to you as well. So now is a good time to go ahead and subscribe. And if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. Okay, that's it. I hope you're doing well. I'll see you guys all very soon. Take care.